Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Casey Willis, and I am the podcast manager for Goodie Nation, and you are tuned into Why Relationships Matter. So, Goodie Nation, we are an organization that exists to bridge the relationship gap for so many promising founders, founders from underestimated backgrounds, founders in the social entrepreneurship sector, folks who don't often always have the opportunities to easily meet the people who could help to accelerate their careers and their ventures. And so today, on this episode of Why Relationships Matter, we have a very special guest, actually, one of our own team members who is going to share with us her insights on networking and relationship building and give us, I guess, a little sneak peek of some of the things that we can look forward to, both as a Goodie Nation team and for folks who just want to come hang out and start building those relationships for themselves. So, very happy to welcome Jordyn Weaver to the program. Hello, Jordyn.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So, our first question is classic Goodie Nation question. What is your origin story? We would love to know how we ended up having this opportunity to speak to you today. What were those early steps that led to you being here?
Yeah, so my origin story really starts way back when, I guess when I was a child. Came from a family, of entrepreneurs. My parents were entrepreneurs, had their own nonprofits. My dad started a church. So very early on, I really began to develop that. Sorry, my dog is sneaking in here. Very early on, I began to just develop that passion for entrepreneurship and really just knew that was a path that I wanted to take very early on. So me and my sister, we would start with lemonade stands in the neighborhood and then do like dog sitting and pet sitting and babysitting. So like my entrepreneurial journey started very young, but growing up, I thought I wanted to be a pharmacist. So that's actually what I ended up going to school for. For the first year, I went to an HBCU, North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina. And just during that time, I really just began to get the entrepreneurship bug again. But honestly, just really looking at the landscape of Black entrepreneurship and Black wealth, I just saw a lot of holes that I felt like I was called to fix in the world of innovation and entrepreneurship. Very ironically, I went to a school that was 5 minutes away from Black Wall Street in Durham, North Carolina. So very naturally, that really sparked a lot of interest in understanding what Black Wall Street was for the Black community back then, and like, what happened, how can we, really kind of create that ecosystem of powerful, booming Black owned businesses. And I just knew that was a key to wealth for me, and kind of like an imprint that I wanted to really work towards. So that's really where my passion for like innovation entrepreneurship started. Also very young, I had a lot of ideas for like inventions that I never really knew what to do with. So I just saw that there was a lot of gaps in that ecosystem for Black entrepreneurs, Black innovators. And so after I graduated college, I decided to go get my master's in innovation and entrepreneurship, really just to learn more about what it takes to really take an idea from idea to conception and really scaling it. So that was a great opportunity for me to really just learn the in and outs, and actually kind of like the birth of my own company that I actually am the founder of right now, which is Forefront. And the mission behind Forefront is to really bring Black brands to the forefront. So that's something that I'm also doing on the side. And just overall, my origin story really just represents just my passion for just closing the wealth gap, but using innovation, technology, entrepreneurship to really do that. And so that kind of led me to starting my own company, Forefront, which is a marketplace that allows Black owned businesses to work with influencers, UGC, content creators to really help their businesses grow online. And then in the midst of that, I was most recently at an organization called Digital Undivided, where I was able to really support other innovators, entrepreneurs just like myself, to really just start their own businesses and startups. And so I love doing that. I love just as I like to ideate and innovate, I love helping other people to do that as well. So that's really where my origin story has kind of evolved to, just really just being very passionate about starting businesses, innovation, but also using that as a tool to close the wealth gap. And so, of course, technology is all in the mix with all of that as well. And so that's really how I got here in the space of startups, innovation, and also working here at Goodie Nation.
So that's so interesting. It's interesting how you discovered your passion for entrepreneurship, but your passion for creating ecosystems for other entrepreneurs to better themselves. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I mean, of course, the show is Why Relationships Matter. And it sounds like you're someone who naturally wants to help build relationships for founders. Where do you think that came from? How did that become a part of who you are?
I think it definitely came about when I just understood the correlation between entrepreneurship and like building Black wealth. Like I said, that's something I'm very passionate about. And that's really kind of like the motivation behind everything that I do. And so I understand that when we talk about successful businesses and scaling businesses, it doesn't really do much for the community if it's only one or two people winning. And so I understood just the struggles I've experienced as an early stage entrepreneur and even as a young girl who had a lot of ideas but didn't know where to go to help them get off the ground. Once I kind of got just the understanding of what it takes to really build a startup and really scale it, when I was getting my master's at UC Irvine, I just wanted to kind of share that knowledge with other people because I understood that, even at that time, I graduated college or undergrad in 2019. There was not a lot of information that really teaches how to scale a business. There's a lot of entrepreneurship classes, but we weren't really taught the in and outs of really bringing an idea to life, like a new idea to life. And so I just saw that as a huge gap in our community. I was like, I really want to be able to help teach other people how to take their idea and really make it into something. So I think that really just came down to it really stemmed from just my passion for Black wealth. If this is going to be something that I can really, have my foot in and really support, it can't just be for me and my business, but I have to kind of pay it forward and help other people along the way. Because I think that's ultimately like that group economics. That's really how we are able to move forward economically.
So you actually just set up a beautiful segue to what I wanted to ask you next. And that is in your own founder journey, as you were starting your company, as you were, coming up with your plans and like what you're going to do, what impacted the relationships either that you already had with friends or family, with colleagues, coworkers, fellow students? And a lot of people discount like classmate relationships, but sometimes those are the folks you're like going into business with at some point.
Right.
How are there any particular relationships that you can think of that helped you to form your company? And are there any relationships like after you formed your company that you could think of that were like, oh, I never would have built this relationship had I not built my own venture?
Yeah. So I really started to see the power of relationship building when I was in college, in undergrad. I think that's one of the biggest things you can walk away from college with is those relationships. And not just relationships with your peers or your classmates, but also the faculty, the staff, the people that are there to support students. And that was something that I really saw the value in. So when I was in college, I was, building those strong relationships with, I guess mentors or people that actually worked at the school that when I had this idea, something that I wanted to start, they were able to really guide me in that direction. They supported me. They championed me. They were able to kind of write letters of recommendation to get me into different organizations and programs and things of that nature just to continue to learn. And so that was something that I noticed in college. And then once I went to go get my master's, it was the same thing, just building some of those relationships with people who understand what you're trying to do, understand your mission, and they're willing to really get behind you and support you in whatever, role that is. So whether it's just like putting your name in a room or sharing different grants with you or just literally helping you. I actually had a mentor when I was at UC Irvine that literally would sit on the phone with me for 3 hours on end just to really help me to strategize what I wanted to build with my company. And that's a person I'm still very cool with to this day. And he's also always sending just different opportunities. And now I'm able to, spend time helping him with his vision as well, in the startup ecosystem as well. So I think those relationships are all very powerful, because relationships is not always about what people can do for you, but what you can also support with them. And even outside of starting my company and just in the midst of me moving to Atlanta, the relationships that I built here have been very powerful and tremendous to even getting me to where I am, even here at Goodie Nation. So I'm learning just like every person that you meet, especially like in Atlanta, everyone's doing something positive. Everyone's doing something that can connect with other people. So I just learned to really just engage with people, learn what people are doing, learn how you can really support them. And then in turn, people are going to share job opportunities with you. People are going to share different connections with you to really help you propel forward. And I literally wouldn't be here at Goodie Nation if it wasn't for a really strong relationship that I have with a good friend. I'll plug her name, Jade Wildcard. She's been somebody I met before I came to Atlanta, and her and I just really began to get close as friends, but also very close professionally, working in the innovation and startup ecosystem. And so she's also, like I said, one of the main reasons that I'm here working with Goodie Nation. So overall, like, just really being intentional about building relationships, being intentional about just getting to know someone, learning from someone, but also not being afraid to just share other opportunities with other people, because you'll get that in return as well.
So you have once again brilliantly set me up for my next question, which which is Goodie Nation. You're here now, wanting to learn more about what interested you in your role. I want you to tell us a little bit about your role first. But then I have a little follow-up already from what you just said too. So the first question is, how did you, or what was it about Goodie Nation that attracted you to the position? What is your position? What are you doing? Tell us about that stuff.
Yeah, so I actually got connected with Joey from the same friend, Jade, like a couple of years ago, just seeing all the good things that Goodie Nation is doing for founders. I've always been very intrigued and just follow just their mission and just what they've been able to do specifically to support founders of color, building relationships, which I think is powerful. That's one of the main tools that a founder needs to succeed. So I've always just been very intrigued with just the mission behind Goodie Nation. So that started about a couple years ago, and I kind of just been like following just all the great things. And then once I heard about the opportunity with Atlanta Black Tech, which is under Goodie Nation, how they're looking for a program manager, so just to really cultivate the community of tech professionals that we have here in Atlanta. I was really interested primarily because I spent the last 5 years in the startup innovation space as a founder and as a program manager at a pre-accelerator, as I mentioned previously. And I really wanted to learn more about the tech space specifically. I'm not a tech founder. I'm building a tech company, but I'm not tech. So I really wanted to just learn more about the tech ecosystem and really get more involved in Atlanta's tech startup or tech scene. And so really what my role as a program manager for Atlanta Black Tech is to really just cultivate a strong community amongst Atlanta's tech professionals, community leaders, and to really make sure we're just fostering an engaging place for everyone to learn, for everyone to commune together and reach their bottom line, which is building those communities. So how Goodie Nation kind of supports founders, Atlanta Black Tech is really here to support those different organizations that are supporting just workforce development, even the startups and the investor space, education, and college technology endeavors. So that's really kind of what my role with Atlanta Black Tech as a program manager. So I'm just really cultivating those relationships, and we're doing that in a lot of different ways. One of the main things that we launched since I've been here has been our community dinner series, which has been really exciting. I'm learning, not even just myself being an introvert, but there's a lot of people in the tech space that are introverts, and they really value that intimate setting to really get to know others. And so that's really what the community dinner series is. So we have about 8 hosts that host dinners the first Thursday of every month. And people are able to just, RSVP, come to dinner and meet so many different people from so many different walks of life, so many different fields of technology. And so far, we've gotten so much amazing feedback on just the connections they've been able to make and just how authentic these connections are. So we're really excited about those. And from there, we learned that people are requesting more events, more of those interactions, more of those intimate settings. And so we're really working on just cultivating more events specifically for tech professionals here in Atlanta. We're also in the process of launching our quarterly meetings with some of the community leaders that we're working with. And that's really exciting because just as much as it's important to hold founders accountable, which I know Goodie Nation is really great with, just giving them the resources, but making sure they're holding themselves accountable to like really continue to grow and scale. And that's what the quarterly meetings for Atlanta Black Tech is, just to really make sure that these leaders who are growing these communities for tech professionals or for tech founders, investors, whatever the case is, that they also have everything that they need, the resources, the connections to really help them to achieve their goals. And so that's really what the quarterly meetings is, just to kind of get an update of where everyone is, what their goals are for the next quarter, and really seeing how Atlanta Black Tech can really help them to reach those goals. So that's a little bit about my role at ABT.
That's very good. And as a proud member of Team Introvert, I completely understand. Sometimes going to these conferences and these big networking mixers where you're supposed to just walk up to people and start saying things. It's like, ugh. So yes, having a tech focused event where you're sitting next to someone, you're having more of an intimate experience as an option, I think is just a really great addition to the community. From your experience at any of the dinners or any of the specific feedback you sort of talked about, you've been hearing great things. Is there anything so far? I know this is like a new venture that you're particularly the most proud of.
I think the main thing I'm really most proud of is just really giving the host an opportunity to really put themselves out there to cultivate those communities as well. And another thing that we're really intentional about with the dinners is hosting at Black-owned restaurants. As I mentioned, I'm very big on supporting Black businesses, circulating the Black dollar. And so that's something Joey and I were really aligned on, is making sure that like we're circulating the Black dollar, we're supporting Atlanta's Black-owned restaurants. And there are a ton. So like we're definitely doing our part to support the local economy, which I think is really exciting. I mean, each month we're hosting 8 dinners at 8 different Black-owned restaurants. And later on, we're really working on being able to calculate how much money did we actually, spend at these restaurants, and really making that a thing and really showing other organizations around the community how we can also be very intentional with the work we're doing, but also to support the local economy. So that's one of the things I'm really, happy that we're able to really do. So yeah.
That's a very cool through line between sort of your sort of initial Black wealth building initiatives and how it's sort of intersecting with Goodie Nation. That's very cool. Didn't even think about that part. And so I remembered a question that I had put a pin in. And that question is, so you said you've just recently moved to Atlanta and you're just sort of, getting connected with the different folks and different organizations. And so for a lot of people, moving to a new city, starting a new job, or, even just moving to a new city in general, the networking piece, who do I need to know? Who do I need to meet? How do I meet those people? How can I, figure out where I'm supposed to go? Especially for Team Introvert, can be quite overwhelming. And so I was wondering if you have any pointers, insights, things that you're still learning, things that you have experienced so far, for anyone else, they don't have to specifically be moving to Atlanta, but anyone else who is in that situation trying to plug into their city's local tech community.
Yeah, I think one, you do have to be very intentional about just putting yourself out there. I am very much an introvert. A lot of people don't recognize that about me, but I really am. And so I told myself like that wasn't going to be something that I let hold me back from reaching my greatest potential. And I moved to Atlanta for a reason. I'm not going to just be sitting in the house, not taking advantage of just all the opportunities that the city has to offer. So, I've been very intentional about just getting out, going to different events. But one thing that really helped me to even make that step was getting involved in other organizations. So coming to Atlanta, I moved to Atlanta going on 3 years ago. So once I moved to Atlanta, I actually just started a program with HBCU VC. And that was a great opportunity for me to, of course, get my foot wet in the venture capital space, the startup space as well. But they also have a lot of other fellows that were here in Atlanta. So just being able to connect with them and learn more about what they're doing, like that kind of made it easier to really learn about what's happening in the city, to make sure that I'm attending different events, I'm meeting different people. So I would definitely recommend just see what opportunities or what organizations exist that have your specific interests. If you're a developer, if you're a designer, if you're, in the K through 12 space, like whatever your passion is, whatever your industry is, find like-minded individuals. And they're going to really point you in the right direction. They'll add you into different group chats that share different events. And then once you start to go to events, you'll realize, at least for Atlanta, I feel like Atlanta's startup or tech ecosystem is very small. So once you go to events, you start to see some of those same people, and it gets less intimidating because you just start to like meet these same people. And so I would just recommend really just finding different organizations to be a part of, organizations like Goodie Nation or Atlanta Black Tech, and really inserting yourselves in those conversations, letting yourself be known, sharing what you do, and seeing how you can be a support to other people. And that just makes things easier, kind of takes the pressure off, like you're kind of just showing up as yourself. So that's what I would recommend.
Folks listening, I promise you, we have not rehearsed this or planned this, but once again, you have perfectly set me up for the next the thing that I was going to ask you, which is, yes, for the folks listening who are like, oh, I got to go to the next ABT event, or I have to find out, what's going on. How can people best find out what's going on? Is there anything they have to sign up for? How can people get involved with Atlanta Black Tech?
Yeah, so the first thing is definitely following us on social medias. I believe it's ATL Black Tech on LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm not sure if we're on Twitter, but we might be. But that's really where you'll definitely see a lot of the different events and other things that we have coming up. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, you'll want to head to our website, atlblacktech.org. And that's where you can actually sign up to be a part of the Atlanta Black Tech community and get access to those exclusive dinners, different events that we also plan to kick off. Another thing that I don't think I mentioned earlier is wanting to really plan more engaging webinars and education opportunities for people in Atlanta Black Tech. So that's something that's coming soon as well. Just really making sure that Atlanta Black Tech is able to offer, all of our members what they need to really excel and get to the next point of their careers. And so if you're interested in being a part of that, you can actually sign up to be a member and get access to those exclusive events, and as well as our Slack channel, where we're always sharing different grants, opportunities, resources, and just opening that dialogue for tech professionals just to come together and talk about what they love the most. And so I would definitely say follow us on social media and then apply to be a part of the Atlanta Black Tech online community.
Very cool. And for yourself, if someone is curious about how they could contact you, what would be the best way to do that?
I would say follow me on LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn, Jordyn Weaver. And then you can also find me on Instagram. That's really kind of like where I reside mostly. So, definitely check out some of the other things that I'm involved in. My Instagram is Jordyn the Goat, JordynDagoat with an underscore.
Amazing. Jordyn the Goat. Yes. So, I mean, even as someone who kind of knows stuff about Goodie Nation, I just learned a lot about the ways that Atlanta Black Tech is being used to focus on community members in a different way in the tech scene in Atlanta, which is very cool. Helping to put dollars in Black-owned businesses, which is amazing. And even just being reminded of how just the small act of maybe sending somebody a job posting or a grant application could potentially be that thing that's like, oh, this is exactly what I was looking for. This is exactly what's going to take my career, my life to the next level. And so, once again, this is why relationships matter and why we are so happy to have Jordyn on the team, helping to continue to build those relationships with all of you. We hope to see you very soon at an Atlanta Black Tech event. And to wrap things up, as our Goodie Nation founder, Joey Womack, always says, stay magnetic and outwork yesterday. Thank you for listening.